So this was something where, I jumped into the fray as well and criticized Michaela, Jordan Peterson's daughter. And look at this. She's responding to a tweet. So there's this account, Lupus, who's pointing out that why do the owners, like all the owners of these pornography companies, are Jewish? OnlyFans, Grindr, whatever, Pornhub. These are all a particular ethnicity. And so Mikhaila responds. He says, I cannot believe I'm seeing Nazis in my lifetime that didn't grow up in a cave. She's an MD, a medical doctor, spewing cherry-picked data while completely ignoring facts, like almost 30% of Nobel Prize winners are Jews. Maybe there does need to be some more content moderation, Elon Musk. So she wants this speech to get banned. This doctor is saying, well, isn't it interesting that you have a lot of these pornography companies that are owned by a certain ethnicity, and pornography is a bad thing. It corrupts society. It destroys marriages. It destroys families. It destroys lives. Like, why is there one of one particular group? Okay, whether you agree with that or not, obviously I don't think it's only Jews who are involved in pornography. A lot of Caucasians are as well, let's be honest. But the point being that Mikhaila is calling for censorship. Why this is ironic is that her whole platform in the past has been against censorship. Following her father, Jordan Peterson, the claim is that it's snowflakes that want censorship. It is this woke, identitarian, left-wing, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden type wanting to censor because of identity politics, because of being snowflakes. You can't criticize. You have to use the pronouns, for example. This is how Jordan Peterson made his fame. Like, that's why this random Canadian professor was catapulted into world fame, because he criticized the fact that, I have to use a person's pronouns. What if I don't want to use those pronouns? He took a stand against pronouns. Oh, what a brave professor. Now he's a world famous public intellectual, but it was all on the basis of don't regulate speech. Don't force people to comply with your standards, like with these liberal standards. Like that's his whole name to fame. But now, actually, we do need to censor. Actually, we do need to moderate content if it's critical of a particular group. Like, you can be critical of trans, you can be critical of LGBT, you can be critical of blacks, obviously, black people, you can criticize them, you can accuse them of all kinds of things, no problem. You can criticize Muslims, that's fine. We all know Muslims are terrorists, as, we'll see some statements from Mikhaila along those lines. Though all of that is fine, that's brave. The left is morally compromised for calling for censorship. We should be free to criticize all of those groups. But this one group, no. You're a Nazi. We draw the line at the Nazis. Okay? We draw the line at the Nazis. They need to be shut down. That's what Mikhaila is saying. And what makes it extremely hypocritical is her history criticizing Muslims. So I ratioed her basically, and I pointed out, I replied, were you being a Nazi when you said that religious Muslims, quote, scare you or are scary? For you, it's okay to demonize Muslims, but not Jews, right? This is my tweet to her. And, as complete ratio, 11,000 likes, obvious double standard. And then she responds to me and she says, I guess I'm not super impressed with the whole forced hijab thing, looking down on women, marriage to children when it gets extreme, and infiltrating Europe, making it Muslim. Oh, she has a problem with infiltration of Europe. So anti-immigrant, okay? Different than cherry picking companies to illustrate a stupid point and using the hashtag filth. So what is the difference there? Like, you're not cherry picking when it comes to Islam. You're not cherry picking when it comes to your criticism of Muslims. You're just spitting facts, right? You should be free to spit facts about Muslims being evil and Muslims being this immigrant threat that are going to take over Europe. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not being a Nazi. That's not being the second coming of Hitler. But if you say it about another group, then yeah, that goes too far. So then I responded in this way. I said, I'm not super impressed with Judaic supremacism, Jewish extremists calling for the genocide of Palestinians based on the Bible, destroy Amalek, shills like you getting on your knees for Israel. You want to attack Islam, but want to censor anyone criticizing Judaism. Why? So this is this double standard I've pointed out many times. You have Zionists, you have people who are pro-Israel who will criticize Islam, demonize Muslims, burn the Quran, like literally burn the Quran, do all kinds of inflammatory things to generate hatred, more and more hatred against Muslims, against Palestinians, against immigrants. That is allowed. Now, especially this is allowed and is promoted and it's trumpeted, and it's gotten so much worse after October 7th because you have Israel literally funding millions of dollars into this anti-Islam, anti-Muslim propaganda, and we covered it in a previous episode of Haqiqatjou. Check that one out. But you can't have the same kind of standard in criticizing Judaism, in criticizing extremism, terrorism, Jewish terrorism, when it's against Palestinians, when it's against Muslims. Then you want censorship. Then that can't be said. You have to be banned. These are clear double standards. And all of the big tech companies are implicated in this. But like I said, this is baked into the cake. This is how these platforms are meant to be run. So here are examples of Mikhaila criticizing Islam and saying, basically saying that there shouldn't be censorship for criticizing Islam. So she says, for those of us naive Westerners who say criticizing any aspect of Islam is Islamophobic. Okay, so she's responding to a tweet about Iran and this CIA asset who is constantly agitating against Iran and calling for regime change, inciting violence, inciting protests, like with the whole Amini case. So then Mikhaila is saying, see, Muslims are dangerous. Islam is dangerous. So you naive people who want to shut down criticism of Islam on the basis that it's Islamophobic, look at what it's going to cause. Look at the disaster that it's going to create. We have to be able to openly criticize Islam, no matter who thinks it's Islamophobic. I wonder if she would say the same thing about anti-Semitic criticism of Jews or Zionists or Israel. Would she have the same standard? I wonder. So then, this is another tweet. Someone defends that original Lupus tweet, saying that she's arguing that minorities control an industry that's eroding societal norms. As a staunch advocate for free speech, I believe discussing this issue falls under the protection of free speech and should not be subject to censorship. And then Mikhaila says, my point is Jews control more businesses in general, good and bad businesses. Cherry picking the bad businesses and presenting them as a conspiracy on X to encourage Nazism goes beyond what I think is acceptable. This isn't about climate or gender. This is leading to calling for the eradication of a people that have been going through this for thousands of years because other people have the memory of a goldfish. So if you criticize a certain ethnicity because of overrepresentation and certain bad businesses, that's calling for their eradication. But if you criticize Muslim immigrants, if you say they're trying to take over Europe, if you're saying that their religion scares you, if you're trying to saying that, their religion is dangerous, that is not a call to eradicate Muslims. That's not a that's not a call for Nazism. Okay. And then here's another tweet. So there's a Muslim criticizing, or maybe not a Muslim. Yeah, I think it was a Muslim who was criticizing standards of dress in the UK, like women are dressed inappropriately. And then Mikhaila comes and says, why don't you move? Seriously, what made you decide to move to Britain if you want to be exactly like whatever godforsaken country you escaped from? And then someone responds to her, Muslims will gladly remain in Muslim countries when the West stops bombing their families, invading their lands, and usurping their leaders. Then Mikhaila says, since when Have you seen what Iran looked like in the 70s? If you're suggesting Muslims don't infiltrate and overtake countries and then subjugate the women in those countries to monstrosities, you don't know anything about history. So yeah, you can have this kind of very xenophobic attitude towards Muslims, no problem. The ADL is not going to come for Michaela Peterson anytime soon. I wonder why. I wonder why. So it's just a joke. Like these values that they claim are so important, like free speech and open democracy and liberal society. This is like the gem within their crown of moral authority, that they are just enlightened. Like these are people, and this is a civilization based on true principles. We're a rule-based order, or we have established this rule-based order. And that's why we are authorized to be the superpower at the top. But all of their rules and all of these values are just a joke. They're completely empty, vacuous, violated for convenient purposes, violated in order to justify the most brutal, barbaric, violent, genocidal policies or speech or actions. So this is why the West and its values, like liberalism, should be taken as a joke. Like it's a complete joke. And that's why any Muslim reformer who purports to follow those values or wants to reform Islam to be more in line with liberal values should be shunned as not only immoral because you're trying to reform Islam, but also as an idiot. Like you're too stupid to understand how empty, vacuous, and completely meaningless these supposed values are that are trumpeted in the West. You're too stupid to realize that. Instead, you want to bring that cancer into Islam and reform Islam on the basis of those values. This is not only morally bankrupt, it's also intellectually bankrupt. Like you should be mocked for being an idiot. Another example from Michaela is violence inherent to Islam. With Ayan, she interviewed Ayan Hirsi Ali. Is violence inherent to Islam? Can we say that about other religions? Can we say that is violence inherent to Judaism? Like, is that allowed? Is killing babies inherent? You know, it's found in the Bible. It's found in the Talmud. Like, is killing babies inherent to a particular religion? I wonder if that's something that we can propose and have an interview about that and spread it, and we don't get deplatformed. Okay.
Islam.
Oh, and then here's where she calls Muslims scary. So Michaela was reacting to my debates that I had 4 years ago with an atheist Mortad. And I'm talking about the issue of wife beating, quote unquote, in Islam.
And human rights are in 100% agreement that women are accountable if they break the law. And that means Islam and human rights are in 100% agreement that women should be beaten. We only differ on who should do the beating.
That was good.
Oh, really funny, Michaela. And the thing is that they didn't play the whole clip, so it's cut off. So you can't hear the whole argument presented, but she's already laughing as if she understood anything that I said.
That's a little bit, yeah. That's not how logic works.
Expert logician Michaela is telling us how logic works.
Therefore, women can be beaten. Okay, that was a bit of a stretch. I'm probably more prone to laugh at these things, but it's actually scary. If suddenly that's how all your neighbors think, then it's scary.
Yeah, so if suddenly all your neighbors, like Muslim through immigration, you have all these Muslim neighbors, and that's what they think, then that's scary. So she can talk about Muslims as being scary. She can be anti-immigrant. No problem. Celebrated, even in some of these circles. So